Hi, welcome back to Joe Blogs. In today's episode I want to talk to you about what's happening in the UK economy, and to try and make it a bit more interesting I've come down to the beach and I'll tell you exactly where I am at the end of today's video. The reason I wanted to post today is that the UK inflation data has now been published for January, and it shows that inflation rose at 3%, which was a sharp increase from the 2.5% seen in December. It was actually the fastest rate of increase for 10 months. And this is a major problem for the UK because the UK is currently struggling with low growth. If you've been following the channel, you'll know that the data that was released for the fourth quarter of 2024 showed that GDP only increased by 0.1%, and that was on top of the 0% growth, the flatline growth that was seen in Q3. So the UK is now struggling in terms of actually growing its GDP. And the last thing that it needs right now is for inflation to start taking off again, because it's going to get itself into a situation of stagflation, where you have inflation and a stagnant economy. And that's not what the new Labour government want. And Rachel Reeves, who's the new Chancellor of the Exchequer, is really struggling at the moment because she wants to bring interest rates down. And we've seen 3 interest rate cuts, from the high of 5.25% to the current rate of 4.5%. However, with this latest inflation data, there's now a serious question mark as to whether or not there's going to be any further cuts by the Bank of England. Everybody was expecting at least 2 more cuts to come in 2025, but if inflation keeps rising, then there's a real chance that interest rates might actually have to go back up, because as we've talked about many times before, if you want to bring inflation back under control, what you want to do is reduce spending, reduce demand, and then that should bring prices back under control. And the way to reduce spending is to keep interest rates high, because it makes the cost of borrowing higher, therefore companies and individuals are more reluctant to take on debt, and so everything starts to calm down. So things are really not going well for Rachel Reeves at the moment. And if we take a look at this chart, which shows the official inflation rate in the UK over the past 12 months, you can see the problem. Back in January 24, 12 months ago, inflation was running at 4%, which was double the target rate of 2%. However, between January and September, inflation did exactly what the UK government wanted it to. It came back to less than 2% and hit a low of 1.7% in September. But as you can see, over the past 4 months, inflation has started rising again, hitting 2.3% in October, 2.6% in November, came back down to 2.5% in December, however has bounced back up to 3% in January, and that is the problem. And if we look at this chart, which shows what's been happening with food inflation, you can see the situation is actually worse, because the latest data for January 24 show that food prices increased by 3.3%, and that's the fastest rate of increase that's been seen for 10 months. So what we're seeing from this latest inflation data is that the pressure is continuing to mount on the UK economy. And if inflation keeps rising, then that's really going to lead to a slowdown in growth, because if you keep interest rates high or even have to increase interest rates, then that's likely to slow down the growth of all of the companies in your economy, because as we just discussed, they're likely to borrow less if borrowing is more expensive. We've also got an issue in the UK with regards to the housing market, because the current government have introduced increases in stamp duty which take effect from the 1st of April. And what's happening right now in the market is that there's a flurry of activity. Lots of people are trying to do deals before those new stamp duty rates kick in. And what we may well see is a real slowdown in the housing market. And if interest rates remain higher than expected, then that means that borrowing will cost more, mortgages will cost more. That's going to reduce how much money people have at the end of each month to spend, and therefore is likely to result in both a reduction in spending and also could result in house prices starting to reverse. We could see the rise in house prices slowing down, and they might even start falling, and that could affect the confidence of UK consumers, mean that they spend less, and we could see the GDP figures starting to fall even more rapidly, leading to this stagflation situation that nobody wants. So the overall summary of today's video is that what we've seen from the inflation data is that prices are moving in the wrong direction from the UK economy's perspective. The UK government were hoping that they'd got inflation back under control. It was coming back down towards their 2% target. However, we've seen in January that prices have actually increased by 3%, so they're now on the rise again. This is the 4th consecutive month that they've been above that 2% target. That means that the Bank of England is less likely to reduce interest rates, and keeping interest rates high is going to reduce the appetite for borrowing amongst companies and individuals, therefore is likely to lead to a slowdown in investment and spending, which means that the economy may well slow down, and all of this could become a really vicious circle from the UK economy's perspective, and we could see the UK entering either stagflation or recession at some point in 2025. Now, hopefully you've enjoyed today's video. You've enjoyed me being outside, out and about, down at the waterfront. In terms of where I am, I'm actually in Dubai at the moment, which is an interesting place to be. I'll be making a video in Dubai, so watch out for that coming out. Lots of you can unsubscribe, because whenever I make a video that isn't about economics, I get lots of people going, oh, unsubscribe, stop making videos that are meant to make me smile. I just want to look at graphs and talk about economics. But anyway, that's a different matter. Hopefully you've enjoyed me being out and about today. The sun is actually going down a bit at the moment, which is why I haven't got the sunglasses on. You can see that it's almost sunset, but hopefully you've enjoyed a bit of scenery here. I've got some sand on my feet. We've got lots and lots of really impressive buildings on the skyline over there. But anyway, Dubai, a nice place. It's nice and pleasant. The temperature here at the moment, not too hot. Hopefully you've enjoyed me being out and about. I'll make some more videos like this if you want me to. Drop a note below if you're interested in that. Hopefully you've enjoyed the data that I've shared with you today about the UK economy, and I will see you again on the next video. And here's something to put a smile on your face.